Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are taking a massive stack of sources.
And it's a big one.
Oh yeah, I'm talking historical commentaries, linguistic analysis, archaeological notes, everything. And we're aiming it all at what is, I think, arguably the most famous speech in human history.
It is definitely the most quoted. I mean, think about it. Presidents, activists, authors.
Everybody.
Yeah, everyone from Gandhi to Martin Luther King Jr. to, modern political leaders has borrowed lines from this speech for 2,000 years.
But, and this is the main reason we're diving in today, the consensus from the research is that it's also the most misunderstood speech in history. We're talking about the Sermon on the Mount, specifically Matthew chapter 5.
It's a foundational text, absolutely. But you are so right about the misunderstanding. We tend to think of it as this collection of gentle, comforting sayings.
Right.
Things you put on a floral calendar or a coffee mug.
Yeah, exactly. Blessed are the meek, salt of the earth. It sounds nice, sounds safe.
It does. But when you strip away all that modern sentimentality and actually look at the first century context, which is what we're doing today, it is not a cozy fireside chat.
Right.
It is a cultural manifesto. It's a radical dismantling of how society works.
Dismantling. I like that. So, okay, let's get our bearings. The sources place this event around AD 28 or 30.
Right.
Set the scene for us physically. Where is this all happening?
We're in Galilee, in northern Israel, and tradition points to a specific spot called the Horns of Hattin.
Horns of Hattin.
Yeah, it's this distinct hillside that overlooks the Sea of Galilee.
And it's not just a pretty view, is it?
Yeah.
The notes mention there's a functional reason for this specific spot.
There is. The geography there creates a natural amphitheater. The acoustics are just incredible. We have notes here suggesting that a speaker could sit down, which was the traditional posture for a rabbi when teaching.
Right.
And project his voice to hundreds, maybe even thousands of people without shouting at all.
How?
The wind coming off the lake, it actually carries the sound up the slope.
Wow. That's a fascinating bit of ancient tech. So he's sitting, the crowd is scattered up this lush green hillside. Who exactly is in the audience?
And that is the critical context. You have his inner circle, the disciples close by, but you also have these massive crowds.
Okay.
And you have to remember, these people are living under Roman occupation. They are stressed, they're heavily taxed, and they are, well, politically powerless.
So the tension in the air must be just thick. They're probably hoping for a revolutionary, right? Someone to tell them how to kick out the legions.
Or they're clinging to the religious establishment, the Mosaic Law, hoping that if they just follow all the rules perfectly, God will finally step in and save them.
Into that pressure cooker, Jesus drops a bomb.
But it's a quiet bomb. He starts with the Beatitudes.
The blessed are the statements. And this is the first hurdle in the text, I think. Our modern ears hear blessed, and we think lucky, or, hashtag blessed.
Yes, hashtag blessed, like I just got a raise or went on a nice vacation. But that's the modern drift. The Greek word here is makarioi. And it's so much deeper than just happy. Happy is about circumstances, what happens to you.
Right.
Makarioi implies a state of divine favor. A deep spiritual well-being that is completely independent of what is happening around you.
So just to be clear, you can be Makarioi while your life is completely falling apart.
Precisely. And that is why the list he gives is so shocking to that original audience. He describes an upside-down kingdom. He lists values that are the exact opposite of what the Roman world, and honestly, our world considers successful.
Okay, let's look at the first one because it really sets the trajectory for the whole speech. Blessed are the poor in spirit. Now, being poor was not a virtue in Rome, and it's not really one now.
No, nobody strives for poverty, but the sources link this phrase back to the prophet Isaiah. Poor in spirit isn't about your bank account. It's about your self-assessment.
How so?
It's about recognizing your spiritual bankruptcy.
Bankruptcy is a strong word.
It is, but it's accurate. It's the person who looks at their own moral capacity and realizes, I don't have enough, I can't do this on my own. It's the opposite of arrogance or self-sufficiency.
So Jesus is saying the kingdom belongs to the people who know they need help.
Not the ones who think they have it all together. Yeah.
That is a massive shift for a crowd expecting a political conqueror. And then he says, blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. I have to be honest, meek has always sounded like weak to me.
It does.
Doormat territory. Someone who just lets people walk all over them.
And that's the most common misconception we see in the commentaries. The Greek word is praise.
Praise.
And it does not mean weak. In that era, it was used to describe a powerful war horse that had been broken in.
A war horse. Okay, explain that.
Well, Think of a beast with just massive muscle and destructive potential. It could kill you if it wanted to.
Sure.
But it's perfectly disciplined. It's responsive to the writer's slightest touch. That is praise. It's not the absence of power. It's power under complete control.
That changes the image completely. So he's not telling them to be pushovers.
Not at all. He's telling them to have a strength that doesn't need to explode to prove itself. And the irony, the real hook here, echoes Psalm 37. In the Roman world, who inherits the earth?
The guys with the swords, the loudest, most aggressive conquerors, the Caesars.
The guys who take what they want. And Jesus says, no. In the end, the gentle, the self-controlled, they're the ones left standing.
It's a total reversal of the power structure. So he moves through these, blessing those who mourn, those who hunger for righteousness, and then he shifts gears. He moves from their internal state to their external impact.
The famous metaphors.
Salt and light.
You are the salt of the earth.
Now, again, I know salt makes food taste better. I put it on everything. But I have a feeling he wasn't giving culinary advice to Galilean peasants.
No, you have to dig into the archaeology of the region to really get this one. Today, when we buy salt, it's pure sodium chloride. It's chemically stable.
Right.
But the salt they gathered from the Dead Sea region was a mixture of different minerals. It was impure.
So what happens if it gets wet?
Well, if it was exposed to moisture or stored poorly, the actual sodium chloride could dissolve and just leach out.
So you'd be left with what?
This white, gritty powder that looked like salt, but had no flavor and no preserving power.
It was the decoy.
Exactly. And at that point, the text says it is thrown out and trampled by men. They would literally use that gritty residue to harden the mud on roads and rooftops.
So it went from being a precious commodity to being pavement.
Yeah, it's a heavy warning.
He's saying, don't lose your distinctiveness.
It's a call to preserve moral fiber. Salt stops rot. He's telling this oppressed minority, you are the preservative. You are the thing stopping this society from decaying.
And then the light, a city on a hill cannot be hidden.
Visual context is key again here. From where they were sitting, the Horns of Hattin, they could likely see towns like Safed or Hippos just perched on the surrounding ridges. At night, in a world with no light pollution, the little clay oil lamps in those towns would just glow.
Impossible to hide.
Right. He's linking the internal change. Being poor in spirit, being meek to an external result. You can't have this private, secret, inner truth. If it's real, it illuminates the darkness around it.
Which brings us to what I think is the most tense part of the speech. Jesus is essentially engaging in a massive religious debate here. He's talking to people who have lived by the law of Moses for centuries.
And he knows that, so he says, do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets.
This is the pivot point.
It is. He says he came to fulfill them. The Greek word is plerou. It means to fill up, to complete, or to bring to its intended meaning.
And he gets really technical here. He says not one jot or tittle will disappear. That sounds like legal jargon.
It is a reference to the Hebrew alphabet. The jot is the yod, which is the smallest letter. It looks like a little apostrophe. And the title is just a tiny decorative stroke of a pen that distinguishes one letter from another.
So he's saying, I'm not crossing out the fine print. I'm actually taking it more seriously than you are.
And then he drops the hammer in verse 20. I mean, can you imagine the reaction when he says this? Unless your righteousness exceeds that of the scribes and Pharisees, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven.
Let's just pause there for a second. The Pharisees get a bad rap in history, mostly because of how they're portrayed later in the New Testament. But in that moment, they were the gold standard, weren't they?
Oh, they were the Olympic athletes of rule keeping. They tithed on their spice racks. They memorized entire books of the Torah. If you were a fisherman or a farmer in that crowd, the Pharisees were the professionals you looked up to.
So if Jesus says, you have to be better than the guys who do this for a living, I'm panicking. I'm thinking, I can't even read. How am I supposed to outlawyer a Pharisee?
It would have been terrifying. But that's the trap Jesus is springing. The Pharisees were experts at external compliance. They checked all the boxes. Jesus is shifting the standard to internal reality. He's saying, you think they're righteous because they behave correctly? No, true righteousness happens in the heart where nobody else can see.
And this leads us into the antitheses. This is that pattern where he says, you have heard it said, but I tell you. He does this 6 times. It's like he's taking the law and putting it under a microscope.
Or an X-ray. Let's look at the first one. Anger versus murder.
The old command is, do not murder. Pretty straightforward. If I haven't killed anyone, I'm a good person. I can check that box.
And that's the Pharisee standard. It's external. But Jesus goes to the root. He uses the word orgizomai for anger. He says, if you're harboring this deep-seated anger against a brother, you're subject to the same judgment as a murderer.
He even lists specific insults. Raka and you fool. Why those specific words?
Raka is an Aramaic term. It roughly translates to empty-headed or brainless, but it's more about the sound. It's a sound of contempt.
It's like spitting in words.
Exactly. It's dehumanizing. Jesus is arguing that murder is just the final step of a process that begins with contempt. If you treat another human being as worthless, you've already killed their dignity in your heart. You've morally deleted them.
That is a frighteningly high standard. And he says, if you're at the altar about to offer a gift to God, and you suddenly remember someone has a beef with you,
leave the gift.
Leave the gift, go fix it.
This is a radical reprioritization. In the ancient world, the ritual was everything. You appease the gods with the sacrifice. And Jesus says no. God is more interested in your relationships than your rituals. He puts reconciliation above religious duty.
Okay, moving to the next one. Lust versus adultery. He says, if you even look at a woman to lust after her, you have already committed adultery in your heart.
Again, he's tracing the fruit back to the root. The Greek epithemio means a strong desire or coveting. He's saying the sin isn't just the physical act, it's the posture of the heart that views a person as an object for consumption.
And then we get some of the most graphic imagery in the Bible. If your right eye causes you to sin, gouge it out. I mean, if your hand causes you to sin, cut it off.
Which raises the big question, did he mean this literally?
Well, if he did, there would be a lot of one-eyed, one-handed people in the church.
Right. Historically, the consensus is that this is hyperbole, intentional exaggeration for effect. But don't let the label hyperbole soften the blow. He's saying you need to take ruthless, radical measures to remove the source of temptation.
So in a modern context, he's not saying hurt yourself, he's saying what?
He's saying delete the app, throw away the laptop, break up with the person, quit the job, do whatever extreme thing is necessary to stop the poison from getting in. It's about spiritual survival. He says it is better to lose a part than the whole.
It is serious business. And he keeps going, right? Marriage, oaths.
With marriage, he's tightened the loopholes. In that culture, there was a huge debate about how easily a man could divorce his wife. Some schools of thought said you could divorce her if she just burned dinner.
Really? Burned dinner?
Yes, really. It was treated that casually by some. Jesus restricts it to cases of porneia, sexual immorality. He's protecting the vulnerable party, who is usually the woman in that society. He's elevating marriage from a contract of convenience to a real covenant.
And with oaths, he's just talking about basic integrity. Let your yes be yes.
Yeah, people were swearing by heaven, by earth, by Jerusalem. It was like crossing your fingers behind your back.
A loophole.
I didn't swear by God's name, so it doesn't really count. Jesus just cuts through all that legalism. He says if you are a person of truth, you don't need an oath. Your character should be your guarantee.
It's all about consistency, the inside matching the outside. But then we get to the section that I think is the hardest to actually live out, the section on retaliation, an eye for an eye.
This is fascinating because an eye for an eye, the lex talionis from Exodus, was originally a form of mercy.
How is taking an eye mercy? That sounds barbaric to me.
Because it was a limit. In the ancient tribal world, if you knock out my tooth, I might kill you and burn down your whole village in revenge. Eye for an eye said, no, only the tooth. Proportional justice. It was meant to curb blood feuds.
So it was a ceiling on violence. But Jesus moves past that kind of justice to something else entirely.
He gives 3 specific examples of non-retaliation, and each one is a deep dive in itself. First, if someone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to him the other also.
Okay, let's unpack this, because growing up, I thought this meant if someone beats you up, you just let them keep hitting you. You just become a punching bag.
That's not it at all. You have to look at the mechanics. If I'm right-handed, which was the only hand you'd use in public interactions, to hit your right cheek, I have to use the back of my hand.
A backhand slap.
Exactly. And a backhanded slap wasn't an attempt to injure you, it was an insult. It was how a master disciplined a slave or a superior dismissed an inferior. It was all about humiliation.
So if I turn the other cheek...
You are offering your left cheek. To hit the left cheek with the right hand, the attacker has to use a closed fist or an open palm. That's how you fight an equal.
Whoa. So by turning the cheek, you're actually saying, I refuse to be humiliated. I refuse to be your victim. If you want to hit me, you're going to have to treat me like a man.
Correct. It confronts their pride without using violence. It forces them to acknowledge your humanity.
That's profound. It's not submission at all. It's a defiance. What about the go the extra mile part?
This refers to a Roman practice called impressment. A Roman soldier could legally force a Jewish civilian to carry his heavy pack. We're talking 60 to 100 pounds for 1 million, a Roman mile. It was a hated symbol of occupation.
So imagine you're a farmer, you're busy, and a soldier just barks at you to carry his gear. You are walking that mile just seething with rage.
Right, you're a victim, but Jesus says go too.
Why? Why do more work for the oppressor?
Think about the psychological shift. The first mile is forced service. You have to do it. The second mile, the soldier didn't order that, the law didn't require that. The second mile is a choice.
You're seizing control.
Exactly. You transform from a conquered subject into a free agent of generosity. Imagine the soldier's confusion. He expects you to hate him, but here you are, offering help he didn't even ask for.
You've taken his power to oppress you and turned it into an opportunity to shame him with kindness.
It piles burning coals on his head, so to speak.
Man, that is a power move. It's tactical kindness. But it leads to the ultimate challenge. The peak of the sermon, love your enemies.
Love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you.
This feels impossible. It
Yeah.
feels completely unnatural. Why on earth should we do that?
Well, Jesus gives the rationale. To be sons of your Father in heaven. And he points to nature as the proof. He says God causes his sun to rise on the evil and the good. He sends rain on the righteous and the unrighteous.
So God is indiscriminately kind.
Yes, God doesn't check your moral credit score before he lets the sun warm your face in the morning. He provides these life-sustaining blessings to people who hate him every single day.
And Jesus says, if you only love the people who love you back, big deal.
Yeah, even the tax collectors, who were considered the absolute worst of the worst, do that.
If we only love our friends, we're just average. We're basic.
Exactly. And the goal is stated in verse 48. Be perfect, therefore, as your heavenly Father is perfect.
Perfect is such a loaded word.
It is. The Greek word is teleios. It doesn't necessarily mean flawless in the way we think of a perfect exam score. It means mature, complete, whole. It means having a love that is complete because it doesn't have boundaries. It includes everyone, just like the rain does.
So when we step back and look at Matthew 5 as a whole, it's not just a list of harder rules, is it? It's not try harder.
No. If you treat this as a checklist, okay, I need to never be angry, I need to love my enemy perfectly today, you will be crushed. It is impossible to do on your own. It's a description of a transformed character.
It's a profile.
Yes. It is what life looks like when the heart has been fundamentally changed. It starts with realizing you are poor in spirit, that you can't do it. And it ends with a love that lives just like God's love. It's moving the moral center of gravity from what I do to who I am.
So for the listener today, how do we apply this? Because we aren't Roman subjects carrying armor, and we hopefully aren't offering sacrifices at a temple.
The sources give us some great practical hooks. First, reconciliation. Is there a conflict you've been ignoring? The text says, go quickly. Send the text. Make the call. Don't let it fester. Prioritize the relationship over your pride.
And integrity. Guarding your thoughts.
Right. Using that accountability software for your own mind. Being honest in your speech without needing to swear or overpromise. Just being a person whose word actually holds weight.
And generosity. Going that second mile when you don't have to.
Yes. Absorbing the cost to show kindness. Startling people with generosity they didn't earn.
This has been a heavy but an incredible deep dive. It really changes how you see this speech. It stops being just nice words and starts being a challenge to everything we think is normal.
It is a manifesto for a different kind of life.
I want to leave everyone with a thought to mull over. We talked about how God gives sunlight and rain to everyone, regardless of how good or bad they are.
Verse 44.
Right. So here's the question. If God provides life-sustaining blessings to the evil and the unrighteous every single day, how does that challenge the way we categorize and treat the bad people in our own lives? Are we trying to be the judge when God is busy being the provider?
That is a provocative thought.
Something to chew on. Thanks for diving in with us. We'll see you next time.